It takes me back to when I was young. Like the old cowboys would say, back in the saddle again.
You don't have to be a cowboy. A lot of these people really enjoy the outdoors, and that's why they're here.
I've waited all year for this. I borrowed my cousin's horse and come down here, and I love this place. I could live out here.
I really like riding, but we live in the city, so we can't do a lot. And it's just nice to be with your horses and your family.
Gets me to spend some time with my horse. Of course, we bred him, and he was born right on our farm in Ontario. And he's just like one of the family, and this was a great opportunity to spend a whole week with him and just do our thing together.
I believe that we should promote our heritage, and I try to do that the best I can and keep it alive. This is very important to me to keep Canadian history alive.
Everybody should experience it at least once in their lifetime just to know what our country really is all about. This is something that's going to be gone someday, and people just won't be able to do this anymore.
In 1874, the newly formed Northwest Mounted Police marched west from Fort Dufferin, Manitoba, to end the illegal whiskey trade and bring law and order to the wild Canadian West. 274 new police recruits crossed the prairie following the route of the Boundary Commission, which had surveyed the Canada-U.S. border only a year before. Over a century later, Westerners honor the memory of that historic trek by following part of the same route each year.
The train is made up of people and horses and wagons. There's all kinds of wagons. There's covered wagons, there's rubber-tired wagons, there's wooden wagons, there's Cadillacs of wagons, and there's lots of little buggies.
We started out with about 750 people and 74 wagons. They're people from every walk of life. There's oilmen, there's office workers, there's school teachers, there's RCMP, farmers.
Pete Heinz, local plumber from their snap. A volunteer, he's a good guy, yeah? Him and I went to Brooks and bought that thing because we knew that the people are going to have to use it, eh?
You better make sure you're ready to stop it. I'm pretty fast when I get on.
I'm determined.
Yeah, you're a woman.
I keep kidding him. He always rides a tall horse, and he's a very short man. And I keep saying I've got to see him mount that steed one of these days, but he always seems to get around the corner someplace, and I never seem to catch him. But one of these days, I'm going to.
Just kind of go back in time, slow. No rush, no stress, just an enjoyable ride. I've made the wagon from scratch. I had spokes in the wheels, and I've made my harness, made the tarp on my sewing machine, and broke the horses. Self-sufficient, I hope.
This is kind of an older wagon, one of the more original ones on the drive here. The running gear, I would think maybe be 80 years old, somewhere in there. The box is maybe 50 years old. Some old timers put that together. I picked it up a few years ago. Did a bit of work on it, and it goes down the trail real good. My dad always used to hang a frying pan on the back of the wagon, so it's a little bit of history that way. Frying pan on one side, lantern on the other.
We put the rubber-tired wheels on so that it would be easier for the horses. The old-fashioned wagons are a lot nicer, but this one's probably easier for them to pull. They have to pull together. It's a partnership thing. And if the horses haven't learned to pull together yet, or they're new partners, or they have slightly different gaits, you may not get a good pull out of them, because they can move a lot of weight if they're working together.
It's not as authentic as it could be, because I tried to build it light so that my small horses could pull it. This year we added brakes, and it's been really wonderful because it's so much easier on the horses if you can hold the wagon back a little bit. Some of the hills are pretty steep. But we have no mishaps on this trip. We've upset it once where you're going down a hill slanting and turning at the bottom. That's exciting. It gets your blood going and you're hanging on, and you appreciate your horses when they can make the hills.
Oh, they're just a curious animal, just seeing what's going on. They haven't seen this, you know, something they haven't seen before. So they walk right up and walk up as far as they can, and then away they go.
Okay, the first aid wagon's just up ahead of me. What do you need?
Al figures it's possibly a broken leg.
Okay, hold on.
You better get that backboard too.
The district provides us with a kit of emergency equipment so that we can react to the scene of the accident before the ambulance gets there. We can assess the person and package them, get them all onto the spine boards and ready for the ambulance.
The lady has been bucked off the horse, something.
We got 911 on the line now.
Yes, there's something back or hips, something like that.
She was having a lot of pain in her lower back and that when we assessed her, and we decided she'd better go and get some x-rays done.
They've got her in a wagon and they're going to start towards Clint Gross.
Well, her horse has got a habit of bucking, and he didn't give her no warning this time, so I think she's going to be selling them when she gets home. Somebody's going to be looking for a rodeo bronc, and I imagine that's going to make a good one.
I guess this is something to be expected with 700 and some people on a ride here. We're lucky, I think, to get away with this much so far.
The Northwest Mounted Police Boundary Commission wagon train is strictly volunteer. We've had to have volunteers scout the route, and that was really something, to find a way across the prairies and try to stay to the prairies, not roads, as much as possible, get right of entries from all the landowners, and to arrange a camp that's going to be at 12 o'clock noon, and with the watering hole. Like, some of these things you'd think would be virtually impossible, but our scouts have done a terrific job.
I was appointed trail boss, and the trail boss leads the group. Rides ahead of the colors, ahead of the flag, just like they did years ago. He goes ahead, scouts the trail, makes sure it's safe and the easiest that there is to cross, as long as we had permission from the landowner. That was the big thing, and they never gave us any trouble. We try to respect every landowner and all his fences. Making a game.
The owner asked us if this was going to be low or too low, and he said if it's too low, he said take it off.
How are you making out up there, Len?
If we have to cut a fence, we get permission ahead of time and we make sure it's tied up. We definitely don't want any livestock getting out where they're not supposed to.
And everybody is super cooperative. There's no problems whatsoever with the landowners. And landowners are usually there. We invite them for suppers, and we try to present them a little gift for letting us do it. And they've been great. I'd like to thank Dave and Evelyn for letting us pass through their land, for letting us park on their land. They've shown us nothing but immense hospitality. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Evelyn.
That little ranch, Cottonwood Coulee, it looks very romantic from, you know, a passing through, but to imagine what life is like for those people, 12 months of the year, they got to be some kind of people. I just take my hat off to them. I mean, these are unsung heroes of Canada.
A fellow by the name of Jim Crawford started this in 1989, and it got off the ground in 1990. And ever since then, every year since, they have been taking a trek at least 100 miles.
It got started as a historical commemoration of the Northwest Mounted Police trek to Fort Macleod, plus the work of the Boundary Commission, plus all the pioneers who traveled over the route to their homesteads. And we were just trying to commemorate everybody that had used the trail. It was the highway in those days. It was originally just a game trail. And people who traveled the west, like Lover Andre and Thompson, used this trail. Also, a lot of the fur traders used this trail. And Indians used this trail.
Well, right now we're right in the middle of Fort Walsh National Park. In the middle are Cypress Hills. And we're still in the Saskatchewan side here. And a little while from now, we'll be going to Alberta. We're going to follow Battle Creek Valley all the way into camp. That's a beautiful ride. There's the fort. They're still finding artifacts in there from the original Northwest Mounted Police.
Fort Walsh was built by the Northwest Mounted Police near the site of the Cypress Hills Massacre. In 1873, over 100 Assiniboine men, women, and children who were camped on this field were slaughtered by a group of drunken wolf trappers and whiskey traders. This tragic event led the Canadian government to create the Northwest Mounted Police.
The role of the Northwest Mounted Police was to bring law and order out here, to treat the native people, the white people, all fairly, so that nobody took it upon themselves to push their neighbor around because he was bigger and stronger.
I'm up on my horse, can't you see?
I don't know when you do these things. I just got to be around.
You know what? You got to get up before breakfast.
Get up. Standing beside the fence down there. I knew you were down here. You had to get up there somehow, but I missed it again.
I just jump on.
The pounding that the wagons take is just unreal, but they seem to hold up together good. Going uphill? Well, the one that was really tough where we had to go across the stream and cross a little bog and then go straight up. Sure made the team pull hard. There was no two ways about that. There was some pretty good cowboys there to throw a rope on them and help them drag them up the hills if they needed it. You'd see some pretty honest saddle horses bearing down and buckling down to give these teams a hand to get up.
There, girl. There, girl. Come on.
The biggest thing was just bouncing off the rocks, changing the movement of the wagon on the horses, just slapping their shoulders real hard with the pole. That was tough on them. There's no two ways about that.
I hope I can tie a knot in that.
Wow, that was good. Thank you, Alan.
Where's the camera? Right behind you. Oh, shit. Oh, don't give that one to Shirley, eh? She doesn't want that picture at all, she said.
It'd be nice to sleep in a bed again. It's pretty cold some mornings, you know. Frost almost in the morning. Get up at 4:30. A little too chilly for me, but you tough it out when you're on the trail.
Well, it feels a little brisk, but once you get out and just face it and put a grin on your face, everything goes fine.
I love it. We always get up early. We got a few stranglers that are making their tents a little too late, but the rest of us do well. Sometimes you wonder why we bring people along that don't like getting up in the morning on a trail ride, but they'll learn.
Well, I'm not a morning person. This is probably the earliest I ever get up all year round, is on these trail rides. It's worth getting up this early for the day that you have ahead of you.
This is a support wagon. When you've just got saddle horses, that's too difficult to carry that much stuff. In our luggage is the necessities of life. Changes of clothes, toothbrushes, that kind of thing. Ointment for sore spots. The old timers did not have support wagons.
Oh, I don't know how they did it. We get to go home after a week. I don't know how they did it. It's a tough old haul, but they didn't have a choice back then. It's easy nowadays. You appreciate indoor plumbing, showers, a warm bed at night, a house.
Maybe 100 years ago would have been better for me. I like coming out here and doing this, meeting the old timers and stuff like that. You can really hear some stories.
I had an old guy tell me one time he had a mule like that one over there. He said, get on that mule. No, I don't. Well, get on that mule. He said, when you go home, you'll shoot your saddle horse, he said.
I think maybe I'll try that because a saddle horse is starting to get a little rough for me, you know.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll get a mule.
There is no reason why this guy's better than a horse other than he's got these huge long ears here. My hand span's 9 inches and you can see he's at least 9 inches. He hears real good, and when he's totally relaxed, his ears flop when we're walking. And once you've got one of these things, you probably only need one because they live 40 to 50 years, whereas a normal horse pretty well peters out on you around 20 years. They're tougher, I think they're a lot smarter. They think they're their way out of most situations when they get into trouble.
With the number of horses that we've got out here, all the horses get more excited than they are at home. They're not in their natural surroundings.
But he likes that little girl. It's not really his type, but he likes her.
Yeah, he's busy talking.
What would he be saying?
I'm not sure what he'd be saying. But they do have their communication, I guess, eh?
You gotta watch out and check their feet and make sure everything's in good condition, no sores or nothing. I think that all these horses here are pretty well taken care of. That's not that hard on them. We don't put in that long a days. I think maybe they enjoy it as much as we do.
Just making sure there's no rocks in his feet and so he walks comfortable and doesn't get any buildup in here. No bruises.
It is a major concern because if you got problems with the feet, they can't carry on the road and you gotta end up taking them home, I guess. It's like anybody, if you don't take care of your feet, you got nothing left.
They're called easy boots, and they're made of rubber, hard rubber, and they just clasp right to the hoof. You snap them on, and they seem to work.
Cubes. 50% alfalfa, 50% timothy. It's in place of the hay. No weed seeds, so we don't leave weeds on the farmer's fields.
And there are ranchers that were very concerned about bringing weeds into their country. So they were very happy to see us bring in weedless feeds, as we call it.
Being that we had them couple little fires, I guess we should kind of keep in contact on the way.
Fire is the biggest worry that the landowner has with this type of group crossing through their territory. And that's why we stipulated no smoking. One spark, and this whole country could go.
Yesterday, a horseshoe hit a rock and sparked it off, and there's a little fire started. And it's quite easy in this hot weather. That grass is just like gas, actually, once it lights. The wind comes along. There's been some big prairie fires in this country, and they're hard to stop. That's your livelihood. That's what you feed your livestock with. You don't like to lose it.
When the Northwest Mounted Police marched west, fire was another constant problem. They wiped out the whole prairie, so when they got out, there was no feed for them to find. The buffalo had moved on and gone because of lack of food, and when they come upon any water, the buffalo had been in it, drinking and using it, and there's usually maybe a dead carcass left laying around in there, so the water was no good for them when they got there, and that must have added to the frustration to see it but not be able to drink it.
Every water has its own flavor, and some horses are really used to their own water at home, and when they go to somewhere different, they won't drink it for a day or two. You know, things in plastic, that changes the flavor, and it goes in the truck, and that has a taste to it from the tank. You know, they're just kind of creatures of habit.
You're a thirsty old star, aren't you? You can ruin a horse by giving it too much water when they're hot like this.
I can imagine trying to find water, and you know, when it came to a dry gulch like this, you know, we have a water truck, but you know, they had to keep on going until they found water. And of course, they didn't know where they were going and where the next water would be, so you know, I'm sure their horses were in a lot rougher shape than ours are.
The horses were mostly shipped out to the east, and they come off lush feed and good grains, and they weren't prepared for the grazing that they had to do out here. The conditioning wasn't there, so they weren't allowed to change over to the different types of food, and that took a terrible toll on the horses.
And think of the pioneers when they went across these same trails, and one of the children got sick. Just can't imagine what they went through. This is a real luxury that we're experiencing compared to what they must have gone through.
A family event, that's for sure. Our 5-year-old daughter is laying in a little bed her grandma has made right at the front of the wagon, which is where she was 5 years ago as a 6-month-old baby. We plunked her in a baby bucket on a trail ride we were on, and she stayed there for the whole time except to change her pants.
I'm
I'm 13 and I'm from Reston, Manitoba. And I'm walking the Boundary Commission Trail Ride. I'm doing it to meet people and see lots of scenery. And it is 120 miles. I've walked about 100 miles now, and I got 20 left.
I am 83 years of age, and I'm not going to quit. I don't care if I'm 90 or 94, I'm still going to be riding horses.
A lot of the country we've crossed is unchanged. All the grass country back there is just the way it was 100 years ago.
And that's probably similar to what it was when the buffalo were on there. There's certain lots of areas we saw where we didn't even see a fence, so I think just going back in history a bit is really worthwhile.
I'd just like to take Toronto and bring it out here and scatter it around the country for about a year. Give them all an opportunity to do this, and then take them back to Toronto. They'd be new people. They'd settle down. They wouldn't be so uptight and ripping down the 401 and giving each other the royal salute. They'd be much more relaxed.
He's wild, he's adventurous, he's outdoors. A lot. He's John Summerfield. Join him on The Great Outdoorsman, Saturday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern on Life Network.